Fans, it is Tuesday, June 17th in the United States and Canada. This is a show called What Chaos, presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code What Chaos and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. My name is David Bean. I sit beside Pete Blackburn, and across the room is Sean DePaz. Hello, Pete Blackburn.
Hello, David Bean. Hello, Sean DePaz.
Hello, Pete. Hello, DJ.
Hi, Sean.
That was expeditious.
I don't like when you use the same voice that you use to Penny. You use for Penny to talk to me.
I use that voice for a lot of people. I use that with my parents. I use it. What?
Ellen uses her Penny voice on me, and I'm absolutely no.
Yeah.
Nope. I've tried to shut that down. I'm going on like 4 years at this point.
Some voices are just for some things.
Yes.
You know? That's all. Sean, you go to the movies last night?
I did. I was almost certain there was a Pete joke coming there.
That's what I was thinking about doing. I was going to say, like, I didn't say this, but I was going to say, like, that voice that you're always doing off camera that we're like,
come on.
I did go to the movies last night.
3 times in 2 days?
3 times in 2 days, yep.
I'm going to kick you out.
Movie Sean.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
What did you see last night?
Saw Materialist.
Oh, okay.
Very much enjoyed it. You're the only one that hasn't seen it.
I'm the only one that hasn't seen it yet.
You're also the only one who hasn't seen Friendship.
That is true.
Oh, yeah.
Falling behind.
I'm saving it for the off season.
I saw Materialist last night.
What'd you think?
I think that movie kind of stunk, man.
Oh, damn.
I didn't think it stunk.
I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I did think it kind of stunk. I had high hopes. You were sold a bill of goods on that review that you read.
Oh, was it just a rom-com?
No. It was it didn't have any jokes.
Oh. There was a couple.
It was
of
a rom-com if there weren't jokes, which is fine, but I think you I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah. I want to see it.
Okay.
I will,
but I'm saying you were sold a bill of goods. You'll know when you see it. You'll be like, what the fuck was that person talking about? That's exactly what happened.
The movie is different than you expect, but not in the way that you are expecting it to be different, is what I will say.
Yeah.
I liked it.
So like the love triangle thing just ends up doing like run-of-the-mill, paint-by-numbers love triangle story.
It's Celine's song, so it's better than that, but it's Dakota Johnson, so it's worse than that.
He just is not. He was not thrilled with the acting performance from the lead actress.
Oh, you're saying
he's
Dakota?
Not.
Are you pushing back on the Dakota Johnson slander?
I don't know. Not necessarily. I
will say I think jury's out on Dakota Johnson.
Yes, that's all.
That was the first Dakota Johnson movie I've seen.
Ooh, you got to watch Peanut Butter Falcon, my guy. That movie rules.
I like
that's
Dakota
the best
Johnson.
Dakota Johnson.
Yes, I like Dakota Johnson and Peanut Butter Falcon. Yeah. Okay. That's Materialists. It's one of the things we'll discuss today. But Pete, what else will we discuss?
Today on the show could be our last in-season show.
I didn't even know it was sick.
It's dying. Our boy is dying. Today, let's try this again. What's that about?
Let's try this again.
Is it for the Panthers trying to close this out?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try this again. Panthers have an opportunity to close out a second straight Stanley Cup final. Back-to-back champions, maybe. You get mad.
That was very DJ sounding.
I know. It was like a light mocking of DJ's voice.
Ellen does
when he
that
does
voice with P.
Yes. You get mad. Mike Ryan joins, and you're going to get mad about it, most likely, because the chat gets mad whenever Mike Ryan joins the show, but we love him, so he'll be back. And also, it's a double guest episode. Steve Peters is going to join later on in the show. So that's life balances out. You get mad when Mike Ryan joins, and then we bring you back in when we bring in Steve
I will
Petey.
say this is Mike Ryan's first appearance since the Greg Cody incident.
That is true.
We've had an influx of Levitard heads.
Oh,
so
right.
I think he might have a little more support than previous.
I'm seeing the chat is like, oh, cool.
Yeah, there's a couple
Mike
of like, hell yeah, Mike.
Where normally the chat is really mad. But I think it's also the first time since we've pointed out to our listeners that Mike is a pretty measured guy on that show.
Yeah.
Like that he's kind of the straight man over there.
He's just he might bring shooters with him this time.
Oh, that's true. The streets
don't rock with Pete.
Like
yeah.
There are some loud boos in the chat now. And finally, materialist. I think we already knocked that one out. Hit that.
No, we have
check.
a full rundown later.
We did part of it.
Okay.
We're going to discuss the last thought on materialist until we talk about it later.
For a movie that was described as like fine, it's going to be the crux of the concept for next week.
The height themes that were suggested exist in the movie were heavily undersold.
Oh, so there's a lot of height
It
slander?
is about tall versus short guys.
Now I got to see this fucking movie.
Yeah. I mean, It is.
I'm going to skip the game tonight to watch this fucking movie.
Yeah, I just am afraid of saying anything that will ruin any part of it.
Did you roll your eyes at the revelation?
Yeah, kind of. It was just like, yeah. Like
I was like, this is problematic borderline because that's not what that would look like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, well, stop talking about this movie.
We're having a conversation. If you would stop interrupting, Pete, Sean and I are trying to talk. Okay, let's do what you want to do and discuss Game 6 tonight. Panthers are 3 for 5 in closeout games this postseason. Both losses are at home. They've got an opportunity to win their second straight Stanley Cup this evening. The Panthers, I will add, have not lost 2 closeout games in a row this postseason, which obviously differs from last postseason. But this year, they had a chance to close out. Obviously, the Leafs in Game 6 didn't do it at home. They went and did it in Game 7. And the Hurricanes, they could have closed out at home in Game 4. Didn't do it, but then went and they did it in Game 5. So all's well that ends well there. But if you're the Oilers, you could say, we have history coming back against this team. And this team, even this season, has history with not winning right away. Oilers haven't played in an elimination game this postseason, so there aren't really stats that we can use to that end. But if you want to measure clutch genes or whatever, you could at least say the Oilers have not themselves lost a closeout game. So these are 2 teams that are in, I'd say, a pretty, like they did play a Game 6 against each other last year, so it's familiar, but the scores of those Panthers closeout games last year, all Oilers wins, 8-1, 5-3, 5-1. And then once it becomes an elimination game, Panthers do their thing, win 2-1. So, big one tonight. Could be it. What do we think goes down?
They always say that the fourth one is the hardest to win. Like for a team that's trying to close out. And I feel like that's especially true with the Stanley Cup final in the building, the looming presence, the best trophy in sports. So like I don't think it's going to be easy for the Panthers, especially with how desperate Edmonton is. I would not be surprised if the Oilers won in Game 6 by any means. I have a weird time grappling with how I feel right now because in Game 5, I felt like the series was over. It felt like the Panthers were emphatically the better team. That feeling has not left me, but given how difficult it is to win the fourth game and how desperate we know Edmonton is going to be, I feel like they might win Game 6. And then I have no idea how I'm going to feel with it all tied up heading into a Game 7 at home in Edmonton.
If the Panthers win tonight, it makes sense. The Panthers deserve to win the Stanley Cup. The Panthers have been the better team this series. Panthers obviously have the history of quote-unquote blowing it against the Oilers last year. So there's so many things that make you say, like, yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to win tonight. They don't need 7. They're going to win in 6. And part of me thinks that. But part of me rewatched a lot of Game 5 the other day, or I'm sorry, this morning, and Calvin Pickard was so fucking bad in that game that I think goaltending, knock on all the wood in the world, won't be that bad for the Oilers.
I don't think you can say that.
You can't say it with certainty.
Yeah.
But if the goaltending is, and not to like go too deep into game 5, but like if everything played out with Stu in net in that game, it's maybe 2-1 Panthers with like 15 minutes to go. And you just don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it plays out differently there. So that's to say that even in a game where the Panthers, I think, won pretty handily, that could have been a really close one. So I go back and forth. I'm not as confident as I've been in Edmonton as I have been at like a game 4, 5, or 6 in past series. And I know they've only played in one game 6 so far this postseason, but game 6 against the Kings, you knew that shit was over. Game 5 against the Golden Knights, you knew that shit was over. Game 5 against the Stars, I went to a fucking concert.
Yeah.
And like, do you feel that way right now? No, I don't.
No, because Florida has proven multiple times in this series that they can completely dominate you, like basically wire to wire. And you can say that the game would have been closer if Stu started game 5, but the Oilers still got absolutely nothing in their own offensive end. So, like, I don't have any faith that they would have won that game had Stuart Skinner been in net. I have no faith in that. And we've seen, to this point, Panthers have dominated the Oilers multiple times. The Oilers have not really dominated the Panthers.
I agree with that. Everblade says, have the Panthers just solved Stu, though? I'll go back to what Pete and I discussed after game 5, and a lot of people disagreed with this, but I feel pretty good about it. Like, the goaltending has not made a massive difference in this series.
I would agree
like
with that.
If honestly, game 5 is the only one where I would say, you know, if a different guy's in net, then maybe the situation is a little different. But normally, if you're getting inconsistent goaltending or whatever, you're thinking that every game, and you're thinking like, God, this guy would have made this save or whatever. Like, the Panthers have won the games that they should have won. The Oilers have won, I'll say, the games that they should have won. They maybe win a second one if Corey Perry doesn't get out of the way of a Matthias Ekholm shot in overtime of game 2. Pete said it, like, the Oilers have won close games. Panthers have won more lopsided games. Yes?
I have a weird question. Does what happened last year in the Cup final, like Florida losing 3 games in a row and closeout opportunities, does that give you more faith or make you more scared as an Oilers fan that tonight, this year, like, will be different because they're not going to fuck around?
That goes into my pile of you would thinks that we're going to discuss in just a little bit. And yes, you would think that the Panthers will be a hell of a lot more desperate given last year. I think that it does maybe give you concern if you're an Oilers fan, because you're like, they're not going to do that again, right? You would think. Oilers lineup, by the way, they do go back to Stu Skinner between the pipes, which I got mixed feelings about how they handled that whole thing. But now Skinner back in the building. He was yanked from the last 2 games he played, trying to keep the Oilers season alive. Jones in for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on in morning skate. So it'll be Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, McDavid, Perry, Kane, Draisaitl. Welcome back to the lineup, Kasperi Kapanen, Jeff Skinner, Adam Henrique, Trent Frederick, Vasily Podkolzin, Matthias Janmark, Connor Brown. On defense, Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, Brett Kulak, Jake Wallman, welcome back to the lineup, John Klingberg in for Troy Stetcher, and Stu Skinner between the pipes. So what hasn't there been yet in this series? There hasn't been a Bob game, I would say, even though Bob has been solid or good for most of it.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been a Stu game.
Well, it depends on your definition of a Stu game.
Very fair. There hasn't been a... I go back and forth on this, on like McDavid hasn't gone off. And like at some point McDavid's going to go off, and he hasn't gone off, and he has like... Has McDavid, like... Do you know where McDavid ranks in points in this series?
He's second?
He is...
He got a lot of assists.
He is second.
Yeah.
You know who ranks first in points this series?
Brad Marchand?
No. It's an obvious one.
Sam Bennett.
No.
Leon Draisaitl.
Leon Draisaitl.
Okay.
Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid for all of the these guys aren't gonna just take this lying down. They're gonna push back and they're gonna go off. They've been the best 2 offensive players this series. The problem is that those are the 2-point leaders this series. The next, I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 of the next 6 are Florida Panthers. There are 4 Oilers with 5 points this series. There are 8 Florida Panthers with 5 points this series. So the stars for the Oilers have been themselves-ish. It's just they're playing a deeper team that is outperforming them.
Florida has been like uncharacteristically explosive offensively.
They've been what Edmonton was against Vegas and against Dallas. And at some point that was going to run out. And maybe that runs out for Florida. But I am not counting on any of Florida's third liners to slow down. No, I am not. And now Sam Reinhart is back, so that's all there. Let's quickly grade the you would thinks as we go into game 6, okay? Give me it like a 1 out of 10. Connor McDavid goes off, and we'll define that as either 2 goals or a goal and 3 assists.
I think a goal and 3 assists is more likely. I don't know. I feel like it's likely that we see McDavid have what might be a last gasp type of thing.
Yes. Someone in the chat says McDavid and Draisaitl have not been themselves. I will that is sustained. I will say that Draisaitl at points has not been himself, just with all of the overpassing.
Overpassing for McDavid last game too.
Yes. So I'm sorry. What did you give that? McDavid going off like a 6?
I'll say a 6 or a 7.
That's what I gave Materialists. I gave it like a 6.2. The Oilers have a strong first period, something that they have done only like 0 times, but maybe game 2 you could give them. But they have not played well in the first period. It's been taken to them by Florida.
I'll give that I'll give it a 7. I think the desperation factor and being kind of forced to combat the animosity that comes in Florida on the road. I think being on the road might help them.
Okay, and the last one I'll give you. The Panthers, you would think, will be very desperate in this game. Given last year, given that even though they're good on the road, they are going back into Edmonton if they lose this game, and they could be eliminated. So Panthers will be desperate given last year. You say what?
I think they should be. I don't know how that shows up.
I'm with you too. Like, would not be surprised. I definitely won't be surprised if, especially given the new guys, like if Marchand's like, I'm not losing this fucking game. I still have 2019 in my head. I am not losing this game. Wouldn't surprise me if Seth Jones is like, you know what? For one night, I can be the best defenseman in this game. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of guys who either haven't won or haven't won in a long time and are new to the Panthers thing are like, yeah, I'm going to have my best game as a Florida Panther. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
I also think that, like, regardless of the Florida Panthers being there before, there still has to be like a human element of knowing you are so close. And like that really, especially the first time, the first clinching opportunity for the Stanley Cup, like that's got to weigh on you and affect you mentally.
Yeah.
Regardless if you won already.
I don't like when they have the cup out in the open, but I do like to think of like you're playing and you can win. You win this game, you win the cup, that there's like the cup's just up there, and every now and then the little there's like a glimmer, and like the cup it gets in your eyes, and you're like you're just fucking cursed by it. I'm sure there's a Lord of the Rings reference to make there, but I just don't know about that shit. Before we get to Mike Ryan, we've got this beat in the bookie yesterday. Did you hear this thing about what Brad Marchand did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how good of a guy is Brad Marchand, this person tweets? He lives across the street from a friend. The other day, he had left his garage door open. My friend closed it for him and left him a ring message. He then returned the favor to him with free tickets for Game 6 tomorrow night. Great guy. This got a bunch of retweets. What do you think of this?
I got a cool update on this.
Well, I was going to give you the cool update. This didn't happen.
Yeah,
Someone just
yeah.
tweeted that. Just because this time of year, if you tweet a hockey player in the Cup final did something cool for a kid or for me or for my friend, BR Open Ice is going to share that with like Brad Marchand, Barack Obama, like handshake, like real ones. And it just didn't happen.
Just making up fan fiction about like community service.
I love that. We got to start doing that. It's the could be the move thing.
It's the best.
Of just slap on good in the community when you talk about a player.
Yep.
Okay.
And just lie.
Yes. Let's get to our friend Mike Ryan of Meadowlark, Lebitard Show. You know him. He's a regular on this program. We love him so much. Mike Ryan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me again. This is a great day to win a cup. Hopefully, this is the last morning I wake up as a one-time Stanley Cup champion. Looking forward to waking up, hopefully, a two-time back-to-back Stanley Cup champion tomorrow.
Is your name going on the cup?
Yeah, immortalized forever. As an original 7 franchise, you invoke the Florida Panthers often when you talk about Lord Stanley. And yeah, if you look at last year's, I'm there. I haven't checked for myself, but I'm pretty sure.
You're the first Mike on the Stanley Cup. Last year, there was going to be the first Evan, but people slept on the fact that there was not yet a Michael on the Stanley Cup. Do you think that you do have such a waking experience tomorrow?
Hopefully I don't wake up at all because I'm partying the entire night. I don't know. This Panther team has played with its food a couple of times this postseason. Had an opportunity to put Toronto away at home. Decided it'd be more fun to do that on the road in Toronto. Had an opportunity to actually sweep Rob Rendamore and have fun with that meme, but they decided to give that game up. So I don't know. I think that they know that today is huge and that you don't want to hop on a plane back to Edmonton because they've been so good on the road. There is this weird, like, well, I guess it's not the end of the world the way that it would be in previous years. But I really sincerely hope that they approach this game like they want to win the cup desperately. Now, I also wouldn't play the result. It depends. Maybe they come out completely flat and you can actually say that about it. But if they lose this game, it's not because they took it easy. It's because they're going up against a damn good team. Edmonton over these last 2 years could be an all-time team for all we know that just ended up running into another all-time team.
Well, I think that's kind of a question that I wanted to ask you is like, where do you feel Edmonton is in all of this? And where do you feel Connor McDavid and his legacy is as a result of this cup final? Because I have wondered, like, are the Oilers like running out of gas, or are they just running into the Panthers?
I think they're running into the Panthers, and normally I'm everybody's heard this time of year guy. I know Matthew Tkachuk is injured severely, and he's out there. He doesn't look like himself even the last couple of games. He's kind of turned it on. Forsling's dealing with some stuff. Everybody's dealing with some stuff, but I do think Edmonton's really missing Hyman. And while I think that player is overrated, the trait that he has affected Bob in this postseason. People have effectively at times screened on Bob. Toronto did a really good job of it. Corey Perry's doing a pretty good job of it for Edmonton. That's not to take away from Zach Hyman. If anything, they could use another body doing that. But to answer your question, I think this is a lot like the Spurs Heat series. They also met up back-to-back years. That first year was essentially the first time I've ever felt like an NBA Finals was a tie when Ray Allen hit that shot. And you could argue like, holy cow, San Antonio that year might have been one of the greatest teams of all time. They just ran into the Heat Big Three, who are also one of the greatest teams of all time. Hopefully it goes differently for a South Florida sports team and that San Antonio completely wiped the floor with them in the rematch. And we already know that that's a little different. But I do think typically you guys tell me, typically 2 Stanley Cups in a row don't really get you in that conversation. You need another one in a certain span. I think the fact that they've made 3 straight Cup finals and they're running into the generation's greatest player in Connor McDavid does give some additional juice if this team were to win, to have some all-time conversations and certainly frame their work in the dynastic conversation.
Okay, here's my keys to you becoming a dynasty, which you could become. Like, obviously, you got to win tonight, or you got to win this series, and you got to win back-to-back. This is going to be music to your ears. I think that part of this dynasty for the Panthers, and this is no insult to Brad Marchand, is to only keep Sam Bennett and keep as much flexibility as you can have in the coming years. I'm also saying this selfishly because I want Brad Marchand to make the most money he can possibly make. And I don't want him to be tempted by things like winning and coming back to that team. Like, go be the richest man, you beautiful, perfect angel, and get as much as you possibly can. But I think there is a path. I don't think that we're going to be having dynasty conversations if they do win this series, but I do think there is a path there, and that is by keeping flexibility. What would you do with all of these guys at this point?
Well, I think Sam Bennett's coming back, and I think it's going to be a number that aggravates certain people out there. But as I understand it, Sam Bennett doesn't like new people. He doesn't want to meet new people. He's very comfortable and happy here. And this is a good team. And when the Panthers made it to the Cup final as an 8 seed, you kind of look at everybody's age and you get tricked into thinking like, okay, what kind of run is this going to be? Because Barkov's been here for a decade, but Barkov's in the prime of his career. They still have a youngish core. I know they've played a lot of hockey and it'll catch up to them. Ekblad feels like he should be in his 40s. He's still in the prime of his career. I think maybe if Ekblad probably, unless he takes a major discount, is gone to make it work. But I think Sam Bennett is going to stick around here. Moreover, I kind of think it's a foregone conclusion. So I always find it interesting when I see think pieces over there, because that's not what I'm hearing. People are pretty confident that Sam and the Panthers already have a rather flexible deal already worked out.
Will you be at any of these? Like, are you going tonight?
Yeah, I'm going tonight. Yeah, I'm going tonight.
Do you have a credential?
No, I don't want to go as a member of the media. I want to get really loud, yell at Brad Marchand, yell at the Oilers, drink a lot, and cry if we win. And I can't do that as a media member. I never go to events as a media member because that ruins all the fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you would, and we all prefer when we go to these things, we like doing it in seats. We like doing it where we can see people being crazy, where we can be crazy ourselves. But I was going to say, if you had a credential, got to get on the ice after, got to find 63. He would be he would ask like, he'd ask about your family. He would, oh my God, he'd win you over. He would let you hold the cup.
He'd leave you a Ring doorbell message. It'd be incredible.
Yeah. Good guy, Brad Marchand.
I'm so happy that story isn't true, by the way. Look, he's been a tremendous player, and I was on your show, and I called him a rotational winger, and I'll walk that back. He's been a tremendous bottom six forward for us, no doubt. And I think he owes a lot to that line that he is on. I told you a lot of people could replicate this on this line. Now, what he gives them defensively, that individual effort that he had in the last game is one of the more spectacular goals from an individual effort, where he doesn't even get the separation from speed. He gets a separation from strength. That is a quintessential Brad Marchand moment that he was incapable of when he played the Florida Panthers 2 years ago and effectively ended the Bruins dynasty.
All right. Well,
they had a dynasty? That's pretty nice.
Yeah, no, they definitely did not have a dynasty.
I like that.
Definitely did not have a dynasty.
That was a President's Trophy winner. That was the favorite out east, and he had a chance to kill the Florida Panthers in Game 5, and they never bounced back from that. They matched up the following year, and I think a good part of the legacy, if you want to talk about dynasty with the Florida Panthers, is to look what they've done to the rest of the East. They've made a lot of teams just pack it in and say, all right, we're going to start over. We cannot compete with this. Boston, Carolina, we'll see what happens this offseason. I don't think they've gotten the message. In fact, curious your opinion, I don't think Carolina's that good. If you actually rank the teams 1 through 8 in the Eastern Conference, the first round matchup would have been Carolina versus Florida. I told you guys before that series, I don't think they're good. I think they're the worst team that we played. Losing in 5 in the first round of the Florida Panthers feels a hell of a lot different than losing in 5 in the Eastern Conference final. All those teams feel so positive about them. Carolina always feels positive. This is progress. You're not. If this is an arbitrary ranking, if the teams in the Atlantic weren't beating the hell out of each other all season long, you'd be such a disappointment. You would clean house. So I'm happy Carolina actually thinks that they're good. Let them keep going. They are an afterthought. I don't sweat that team one bit. But New York decided not for us. Now Kucherov, every day that he stays in Tampa and he's not a Utah Mammoth, that means that they're not getting the point. So we'll just have to beat them next year for them to get it.
Watch out for Carolina with Sam Bennett. You know, you're sleeping on Sam Bennett's next team. I kid.
That would be terrible, but they're not going to get Sam Bennett.
I don't think they're
not going to get.
Where do you stand on where is like the Battle of Florida right now? Because the Panthers are on the verge of accomplishing basically the exact feat that Tampa did, in which we all called them a dynasty. 3 straight years in the Cup final, 2 wins. So like where is the Battle of Florida in the kind of do you hate Lightning fans? Do Lightning fans hate Panthers fans?
Yeah, we don't like them. The fact that they haven't gotten the hint and have kept trying to add to this core makes it fun. I think at the end of this, I'm happy to quickly rebut. Like, what's the total count? Well, hopefully that margin narrows after tonight, and we can have a real conversation. Tampa did great things in this state and set a standard that the Florida Panthers aspired to and failed at the hands of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And unlike other teams, unlike Carolina most notably, they got the message. They traded away arguably the face of their franchise, the franchise's all-time leader in points. They even got rid of a coach that was helming the wheel for much of the season for a team that won the President's Trophy, and they decided, you know what, we learned pretty thoroughly. We're not good enough. And I think more teams out east could take that lesson. I'm grateful that they don't.
All right, Mike, the chat has come around on you. The chat is saying like, oh yeah, this is good.
Very
They're
handsome.
Very handsome. Good hat. I think we might be doing a home and home. We might be talking to you on Friday. I don't know if you know about that. Do you know about that?
I do not know about that, and I think I'm in the host chair for Friday, so I'm glad I know about that. Great. Would love to see you guys. I saw Pete appeared on Greg Cody's podcast, and it lived up to the billing. It's funny. Maybe it's because I'm not just spewing hate. I know this is a very pro Brad Marchand podcast that I'm on, and you guys do a great job of carrying water for him. Let me be abundantly clear. Still hate the guy. He can make great goals for my team. I care about the name in the front, not the one in the back. And I like you, also hope he goes out there in the free agency market and collects all the money that he needs. By God, cash in as much as you possibly can. Get the hell out of my life.
Okay, so that was a twist at the end. You saying that you didn't like Brad Marchand. Okay, I didn't know where you were leaning through this conversation.
He's been a good player. Been a good player, and I'm grateful for his contributions. And hopefully he's just a mercenary that's in here to ring chase, and he's gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might ring chase and also win Conn Smyth. So you were confident that he would be a passenger and you could just plug and play anybody on that third line. He's gonna win. He might win Conn Smyth.
Chat, make up tweets about nice things that Brad Marchand did for Mike Ryan.
That's right.
And then you're gonna be plastered on BR Open Ice. It's gonna be like game recognized game, and it's gonna be a picture of Brad Marchand like making you a cake.
Look, I'll deal with how disrespectful I'll be after he lifts a cup, provided that he just lifts a cup. And I was in the barn last year when they did it, and I was grateful that it wasn't the coronation of Connor McDavid capping off the greatest comeback in the history of sports. If McDavid were to come back against this team, I think Florida's that much better than they were last year. So I'm expecting I'm a little surprised, as someone that is routinely taking L's on Connor McDavid shots on goal props, that he's doing what some maybe casuals would say is being passive. I know he's really talented shooting the puck, but man, he is still dazzling out there. He's still very difficult to defend. Draisaitl's been crazy, but you mentioned the Conn Smyth. I don't think Brad Marchand deserves to be in the conversation, although I understand because of the established narrative and his name recognition. One thing that really confuses me, if you look at the lines, Sam Bennett minus 230, I guess that makes sense. What doesn't make sense to me is Sergei Bobrovsky at plus 1,000. When a goalie has put together the resume that he has consistently throughout the playoffs, usually they're in more serious conversation for Conn Smyth. And there's just something about Sergei that makes him a complete afterthought, no matter how good he is. And I heard you mention that he hasn't had the quintessential Bob game. I know that there have been some really high totals in this series. Game 4, I thought Skinner was good. I thought it could have been 6 goals in that first period. I didn't understand benching him. I thought Bob was excellent, despite Florida blowing a 3-goal lead. I think that these goalies are doing a really good job this series. And unfortunately for the Edmonton Oilers, the decision to move away from Skinner might be their undoing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that all 3 goalies in Game 4 were good. I thought that Skinner made as many big saves in one period as Bob or Pickard had to the rest of the way. On Bob being an afterthought for Conn Smyth, it's just because he was better in the first 3 series, and that makes sense. You were playing worse teams, and he was really good in those 3 series, and I think he's been fine this series. I think that right now Bob's probably, I was having this conversation with someone recently, I was like, maybe I would go Bob with my 3rd place vote, but I probably wouldn't. It's like Conn Smyth right now, I'd probably say is Bennett, Marchand, and Draisaitl.
I'd say maybe McDavid.
Yeah, right. Or McDavid.
That's
They
going to drive
both
me
just have
crazy.
so many more points than anybody else.
Yeah. No, I say, in fact, like
In fewer
I've been doing
games.
hedging. The way that I hedged last year was, well, if Edmonton's going to win this series, McDavid's going to be Conn Smyth, and I have a chance for a middle there. And I got all my Panthers futures, and I somehow got the McDavid Conn Smyth. The way that I'm hedging this year is I'm playing some on Draisaitl, though I'm not sure the Canadian media would do that. I do think that I've been really impressed with the strides that Leon Draisaitl has made defensively. I think he had an incredible, like even on that Marchand winner in game 2 that kind of just slid in, that Brad kind of didn't really get a stick on. The play that Draisaitl made to make that a difficult play for Brad was just outstanding. I had this debate with another Panther fan when they were talking about, well, McDavid's clearly the best player in this series. Who's second best? It is probably Barkov, right? And I'm like, no, because the gulf between the offensive talent that Draisaitl is and Barkov is much wider than the gulf that has slimmed down over the course of this season with Draisaitl. For his forechecking ability, he's just become a really dependable defensive forward for Edmonton. I've really been blown away by him. He was very clearly not right the last time these two teams played.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
All right, Mike, we and everybody in the chat loves you. Thanks so much. Maybe talk to you Friday, Mr. Host Boy?
Yeah, hopefully. If we don't...
You might be in Edmonton.
I'll be a barrel of nerves. But hopefully we get to be in that dynastic conversation. Hopefully you get to gloat about Brad Marchand and then quickly show him the door.
Amazing. I got the wheels turning. What if I get Brad Marchand on that? What if we get him to bomb that segment?
Do not do that to me. I don't want that. I don't want to see him.
Not literally.
Look, this is not a game. This is personal. Right?
Okay. Appreciate you, buddy.
Personal issue with the man. Everyone's just going to have to accept that and move on.
All right. Well, best of luck to your team this evening. All right.
Let's go Pants.
That's how he says that.
We
it's
wear
Mike
pants.
Ryan.
Yeah, hell yeah. Pants,
and
brother.
You can't, if you're not, you wear pants, because if you don't wear pants, they don't let you into the game. And if you don't have pants, can't get in. If you don't have tickets, you can't get in. Vivid Seats can help you with one of them. That's going to be the tickets. Although I have it on good authority that if they made pants, they'd be much better than you would think.
You could still call them Vivid Seats because you sit on your pants.
Exactly. So you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For now, they're the best place to get your tickets for any game or show. They got the best selection of seats, a 100% buyer guarantee, and they're the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. For a limited time, our listeners can use promo code CHAOS30 to receive $30 off their first Vivid Seats purchase of $300 or more. Just click the link in the show notes or download the Vivid Seats app and use promo code CHAOS30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. And that's not all. Vivid Seats is giving away free tickets every week. Check out the exclusive Game Center in the Vivid Seats app and play trivia about your favorite teams and artists for your chance to win. When it comes to playoff hockey, being there is all that matters. So experience it live with Vivid Seats.
And if you're not going to the game, or I guess if you are going to the game and you want to have some fun, put a little money on it. A little bet. A little Betsy Boo. And if you're betting, bet smart, bet responsibly. And to do that, download the Hall of Fame betting app because it is an incredible tool for any sports gambler who wants to bet a little bit smarter. If you're sick of throwing money at parlays and losing one leg away, well, you want more data. You want more data to back up your decisions. And the HOF betting app brings it. They'll give you historical data, matchup grades, leg correlation tools, player performance insights. It's got a 5.9 rating in the App Store for a reason, with over 6,000 five-star reviews. I love it. My favorite part of it is that it automatically syncs with most major sports books. So you build your parlay, or you build, your player props or your game lines that you're betting on, and you link it and send it straight to the sports book that you like to use the best, say DraftKings, FanDuel, any of those. It's super easy. It's super helpful. Makes you smarter. Will win you a little bit of money. Who doesn't like that? For a limited time only, our listeners are going to get a 7-day free trial, but also 50% off their first month when they use code CHAOS at checkout. It's a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month when you use code CHAOS at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android, or visit hofbets.com and enter code CHAOS. You're all set.
All right, they call this next guest the James Lipton of hockey because while you may enjoy yourself some inside the actor's studio, there's nothing like inside the coach's room. Let's bring on James Lipton. Hi, Petey.
Oh, that's high praise, by the way. The James Lipton praise. Obscure reference for the
Bonjour, James
Chaos
Lipton.
family, but I like it.
Following up an obscure reference with a massively more obscure reference is unbelievable.
What happens
Good for
tonight,
you.
Petey?
I would be concerned if you're the Edmonton Oilers. I think this is going to be a good night for the Florida Panthers. Now there are caveats, and the biggest one you've already mentioned in the show today is Connor McDavid, and he can do this by himself, and he might need to. And this team needs to be better than they were in Game 5. There were so many disappointing aspects to the Edmonton Oilers game in Game 5 at home, and what you might think is a must-win. But they can win this game. Skinner's going to have to be better, and McDavid's going to have to be the best player on the ice.
How
So
did the
th-
Oilers get to the front of the net? Because they did not get to the front of the net against Florida in Game 5.
One of the ways, and the best way for Edmonton, and this has been throughout this entire playoffs, their ability to generate offenses through their movement. And unfortunately, they're only getting that active. We call it being active. You think of McDavid along the wall, and it goes towards the blue line. And then the defenseman that was at the blue line either walks the line or goes through the middle. That's being active, where everybody's moving around. That's the way you generate space against a team that defends man on man, like the Florida Panthers, because they're going to climb all the way to the defense, or excuse me, the defense will climb all the way to the blue line with Connor McDavid, and you end up with a forward in front of the net. And that's the best way to start generating some open space in behind in that slot area. The problem for the Edmonton Oilers in Game 5 is they didn't get offensive zone time and offensive zone puck possession. So until you get possession, you can't be active and create that movement. Their biggest problem is they didn't get the puck, and they couldn't get the puck in the offensive zone. That's first. They've got to get the puck first before they can try to get to the front of the net.
You talked about Skinner being better, and I thought that Jeff Skinner was really good in Game 4 personally, and just no one was really going in Game 4.
Jeff Skinner was great.
Game 5. Yeah, Jeff Skinner, no problem. But I'm going to change the subject to Stu Skinner, if that's all right with you. Am I being a hater when I said what I said earlier, which was rewatch some of those goals, and if everything plays out, that's a different game in Game 5 if Stu's in net. Pickard did not have a good game.
The reality is you're right. And here's what I've said about Pickard all along. And I said when he first went into the first series against LA, Pickard is a backup goalie in the National Hockey League. He has been his entire career. That's what he is. And eventually he's going to come back down to earth and be who Pickard is. And it just, unfortunately for the Oilers, he couldn't make that last for 2 or 3 more games. That was not a great performance. I thought his feet were moving. I thought he was sliding out of the crease. I think he was out too far on the Bennett goal off the rebound off of Tkachuk. He wasn't sharp. I think the Marchand goal, the first one flips over his shoulder and he's still moving out of the crease. The third one on the Marchand goal, with Perry, there's nowhere to go for Marchand. Just cover the bottom third of the net, get your stick down tight, get your pads down tight, and that one doesn't go in. I don't think Pickard was sharp. But having said that, that's who Pickard is. And we said if the Edmonton Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup, it's going to be with Stu Skinner. It is. And unfortunately, and I know you're really not going to like this, DJ, I don't love Stu Skinner. I like him. And I think when he's good, he's good. But when he's bad, he's bad. He's not consistent enough to be a guy that I go, oh, gosh, I'm going to take to the promised land with Stu Skinner. Because if you switch these goalies right now, if you have the opportunity as an Edmonton Oilers fan saying, we get Bobrovsky in Game 1 and we get him for the series, this series might be over. And that's how important the goaltender is. And I still get frustrated when the Edmonton Oilers don't go out and go, we've got McDavid, we've got Draisaitl, we've got depth, we can defend. God, we need a 1A that can be a monster. I don't revisionist history. I'd have to go back and see who that was. That disappoints me. We knew it. We said it on this show. I think now you're going, gosh, if we had just a little bit better goaltending, man, we might be up 3-2, or this might be over. The window's so short. You got to make those decisions, and I know they're hard. I think I would be disappointed as an Oilers fan right now.
It's interesting you say that because I was thinking if the Oilers lose this series, everybody is going to go back to the goaltending thing and say that the reason that they didn't win over the last 2 years is because they didn't have as good a goaltending as the other side, and to a certain extent, I think that's true. But when DJ's talking
This
about
year. Not last year, but go on.
Yeah. No, I don't even know. I guess I don't subscribe to it being a massive story in this Cup final. I think it's more the instability factor than the goaltending itself. When you talk about the Pickard performance and it would have looked different if Stuart Skinner was in the net. I don't know if I believe that just based off of how drastically Edmonton was outplayed
They don't win that
period,
game.
across the board. So, like,
No chance.
I feel like goaltending has been less of a story in this series than I expected it to be in terms of, like, the actual play being lopsided between the goaltenders. Do you think it's fair that if the Oilers lose here, people are going to look back and say, well, the reason they didn't win the Stanley Cup is because they didn't have better goaltending? Do you think that's fair?
I don't think it's fair. Having said that, you're right. If Skinner plays in that game, they're still losing. Like, they had 3 shots in the first period at home in a must-win game. That's not good enough. They couldn't get a stop on a forecheck for the entire game. They couldn't get through the neutral zone unless it was off a defensive zone turnover off the blue line. They didn't generate. They weren't good enough offensively. They weren't going to win. So goaltending doesn't make a difference there. The problem with their goaltending, it's always that one goal or 2 goals per game. It's 3 or more in 5 straight for Skinner. It's not good enough. And again, I go back to, hey, Bobrovsky, the first 5 minutes of game 5, first 5 minutes of that game, the Oilers had the 3 best chances. Brown had 2, and McDavid has 1 that Ekblad blocks. Edmonton easily with the 2 Brown chances, the one off the rush and the one coming out of the corner on McDavid's forecheck. They could be up 1-0, but they're not, because Bobrovsky makes the big save at the right time, and no one even really goes back and goes, oh, Bob was Bob. But then goes the other end and Picker gets up a weak one and it's over. So goaltending is incredibly important. You can still win with a good goaltender. We've talked about that. I think Darcy Kemper was a good goaltender. Antoniemi was a good goaltender. I think there were good goaltenders that have won cups. And I thought Edmonton could win it with good goaltending because they were defending so well and they were scoring. The difference is the scoring has dried up. I think they're still defending relatively good. I think they're taking the middle of the ice, and I think they're stopping them off the rush. The problem is there's no offense. And now that could break through tonight. They could have an 8-1 game tonight. They could. But the difference that even Mike Ryan said before this was Hyman. How big of a role would Zach Hyman have played? I would look at that loss being as big as the goaltending difference in this series. What would have Zach Hyman provided along the walls, in front of the net, on the power play? All of the areas that would help, not just defensively, but in the offensive side of the puck.
Yeah, I mean, the Marchand addition has been obviously massive from last year to this year, but it really is the double whammy of they have Marchand and you don't have Zach Hyman. And look, like if the Panthers win this series, that's an if. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like I'm not going to. My feelings are going to be hurt, and I'm going to be sad, but I'm not going to be offended that the Florida Panthers in this roster won another Stanley Cup. Even if the Oilers weren't in it, like when they get Seth Jones, you're like, damn. Well, they're primed for a run here. So I agree that it's going to feel annoying when this gets reduced to goaltending, no matter how it ends, because I think that both of these teams are awesome, and whichever one wins, you're going to be like, that was a fucking Stanley Cup champion. And if it happens to be the one that doesn't have John Klingberg and Troy Stetcher going in and out of the lineup, can you really be like, wow, how did that, like, how did the Panthers win? Like, no, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, and like I've talked about stability so much this week, but like, how often do we monitor the lines for the Edmonton Oilers? Because the lines change every goddamn game. They really do. And to me, like, nobody gives a shit about the Florida Panthers lines because you know what you're going to get. You know what they're going to roll out. You know what their team is going to be on any given night. The Oilers don't have that. And yeah, they've had these runs where they've been so dominant with even with these different kinds of lines. But it's the instability factor that to me is going to linger if Edmonton loses this series, where it's just they didn't have the same sort of business as usual heading to the rink, knowing what they're going to be, knowing what it's going to look like, knowing who's going to be in net. Do you agree with that?
100%. And it's one of the things that makes them who they are. And I think they flipped a switch when the playoffs started. I honestly don't think they were very good the last 20 games of the regular season. I think they were injured. I think they didn't get a chance to play together. There was no chemistry. They weren't good. And then the playoffs start and they just go, okay, we got this. We know how to play. We're just going to play the exact same way every night. You guys figure it out. We're not changing. This is how we're going to play. If you think you can beat us, good luck. And I think for the Edmonton Oilers, it's, hey, we got to keep juggling lines. We got to keep mixing up our systems. Tonight we're going to try entries. Tomorrow we're going to dump the puck in. Like, I do think it forces your opponent to try different things to try to beat the Florida Panthers. And DJ said something interesting in the last interview. He said, do you think they feel like they have to win this game because they don't want to go back to Edmonton? I don't think that matters. I don't think if they lose tonight 6-1, I really don't think Paul Maurice is going to go in there with hair on fire going, oh, we're in trouble. It's okay. We got this. Well, we got it in game 7. And I believe that the room believes that. I mean, clearly they don't want to make the trip back. You guys have made that trip from Florida to Edmonton. It stinks. You don't want to do it. So I think there's an added benefit to not making that trip. But I don't think it scares them. I don't think there's that pressure. And they've won the cup. So I agree when you said the cup's in the building and that changes things. I do believe that. And we saw it with we've seen it with Colorado Avalanche, and you see that. But I don't think you see it with Florida. Edmonton's going to have to be special. Edmonton evolved this entire playoffs from LA all the way through to Dallas. They became a better team. I don't think they were great against LA. I don't think they defended very well. I don't think they defended the rush well. But as the playoffs went on, you go, gosh, this team is good. And they can defend. And they became this in the mythos of, hey, we're a really good hockey team here. They grew into that over time. Florida had that from day one. So when you look back now, we've played 5 games, 3 in overtime. This has been a great Stanley Cup final. Don't kid yourself. This has been fantastic hockey and absolutely can go either way tonight. I would not surprise me for 1 second if Edmond comes out of there with a 2-goal win on an empty netter. Wouldn't surprise me. I think if they're going to do that, it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think it's 6-3, but we'll have to see what happens tonight.
The thing on they're not concerned if they have to go back there, I completely agree, and I know that everyone here does just because they've been that good of a road team, but I'm going to always go back to that clip in the Amazon docuseries that is now in a commercial where Paul Maurice is yelling like, so in game 7, they've got nothing left. The full clip of that is he says to his bench, and I'm only lightly paraphrasing, but he's like, you fucking guys, you take a 3-1 lead and you take a 3-1 series lead and now you're trying to make plays. Fuck the plays, pound their D, so when we get to game 7, they've got nothing left. Yeah. This guy is up 3-1 in a series, playing game 5 at home with the opportunity to close out the series, and he is yelling to his team about being ill-prepared for game 7. So, like, ask that guy how concerned he is about having to play in a game 7. He's yelling at his team that they're not preparing for a game 7 with a 3-1 lead well enough. Like that. Do you think other coaches would have that mindset? Because it blows my mind.
I don't know. He's an exceptional person and an exceptional coach. I mean, you look at his top 5 in total wins and games coached behind the bench. And I'm sure he's evolved. And one of the advantages he has over Knoblauch is his experience and his ability to be in situations that Chris Knoblauch hasn't been in yet. He's still too new. And I think that does give the check mark to Maurice, but he's evolved. Coaches can't be just one way anymore in the National Hockey League. And I think he's become more of a player's coach. And when you become more of a player's coach, they want to play for you. And I don't think he has been that throughout his career. I want to play for Paul Maurice. I do. Like, I'm ready. Let's go run through a wall. And you see it in their players. We just play this way. We trust our coach. We trust our system. Just get on our engine, get on the tracks, and just go play. And just play our way. If we do our play consistently over 60 minutes, we're going to win most games. And that is so hard for an opponent to go, I look over my shoulder. I know there's going to be a Panther there. I know there's going to be a Panther there. No matter how I play, if we chip it, if we dump it, if we hard rim it, if we carry it, there's going to be a Panther there. And I do think it's psychological over that 5, 6, 7 game series. I think the Oilers find themselves in a really tough spot going into Florida. If they are to win, the only way they do it is Connor McDavid, because he is that good. And I think he can single-handedly turn the tide of this game. That doesn't mean he gets 3 goals. It could be 4 assists, but he single-handedly has to be the guy. You're going to see him playing nearly 30 minutes tonight, because if they get behind, you're going to see he's going to be every other shift for the remainder of the game, because there is nothing left. And he will play until he cannot play anymore. This is going to be a fantastic game. I can't wait to see the way game 6 unfolds.
Okay, I've got like an 18-parter. One, are you surprised, or would you play Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid together, or is that just a non-starter against a team this deep?
You don't do it to start. You're going to have to do it throughout the night. And I think your ability to sprinkle that in, and I don't think you wait till the third period. I think there are times in every period in this game where you put those two together. And I'm talking, you play your lines 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, McDavid, Draisaitl, 1, 2, 3. And so you're playing your top 9 more, but then that last opportunity, you're seeing McDavid and Draisaitl getting an opportunity to play with that fourth line. I think they have to play together. And I think they have to play together once every 5 rotations. And I think you do that for the entirety of the game. Because things happen, special things happen when they're iced together. And you can trust them. They can play 22, 25, 27 minutes and still have the ability to get back and defend. I think you're going to see them together right away towards halfway through the first period. Don't be surprised you start seeing those two out there, at least 1 or 2 shifts per period. And the third, if they're down, they're out every third shift together the rest of the way.
Okay, how do they score on the power play? And I honestly want to make that more a Panthers question, because what are the Panthers doing? Why are they so unbelievable on the kill?
The one of the things the Panthers do, when you're killing a penalty, it's called one go, all go. And I think when Carolina is very aggressive, but you saw oftentimes one player would go, they'd make a pass, and then they back off. With the Florida Panthers, you have the puck, you make a pass, and they're jumping. You make another pass, they're jumping. Everybody is consistently moving, which doesn't give you time to set up. So for the Edmonton Oilers, the only way you can alleviate that pressure is you got to get the puck to where the players are not. And so that means you've got to get it to the weak side of the ice. So you've got to get the puck hard rim all the way around. The problem with that is you need to have the players on the other side of the ice ready, because they're drifting to the middle of the ice trying to make a play to the bumper or the inside. So if I'm the Edmonton Oilers right now, I'm thinking we get the puck in, and once we get the puck in, every time it goes back to the point, it's instead of on net, it's a hard rim all the way around the wall, and that weak side winger is going to be ready for it. And you do that 2 or 3 times in the same power play, you tire out the penalty killers. That's hard. That is so hard to go side to side to side to side. And now you start to shrink that box. And when you shrink the box, now you can get shots. Now let's get the puck back to Bouchard at the top of the slot, and let's just let it go. And I think once you start doing that, now you're going to open up more space for Draisaitl and McDavid. So first of all, you got to get to the weak side. Second of all, you got to get shots on net. And that will start to shrink that box. And when you shrink the box, you're going to get more room for those other 2 guys.
You done with all your parts?
I mean, I do have more parts, but I would give you the opportunity if you have anything else.
No, I'll get to it after you're done, because I have a thought based off of something that came up earlier.
Okay, how likely is it that the Oilers actually will have a good start, and what goes into that?
That's a good question, because
It's a really good question.
I have like a lot of fucking parts right now.
But
I'm
don't
like
you
the
say that all
fucking
the time, though?
IF internal family system.
How many times, and you guys haven't seen this, but every coach's speech in every playoff game that I've ever been around, hasn't been all that many, because Arizona wasn't, we know what they were. But every coach always says, hey, let's start on time. Hey, let's start on time. Hey, let's start on time. You can't just say the words. You have to do the actions. And you know who was ready last game? Was Brad Marchand. And you look at the difference in his ability to jump off the faceoff, and people are, oh, he cheated. No, he didn't. He didn't cheat. And I went back, trust me, I went frame by frame to see
the Panthers never
cheat. He crossed the circle. Dude, well, they do a lot.
Dude, when the puck hit the the puck hit the ice,
yes,
he was like
3 feet past.
You can let it happen once. You can't let it happen twice. They let it happen twice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why, so the first one you go, oh my gosh, he got through quick, and Ekholm usually plays the left off the faceoff. He was on the right, so he's having a difficulty moving to the middle of the ice. He doesn't do it all the time, but he does some of the time. But on that second one, that's a D zone faceoff, buddy. Edmonton's in the offensive zone. Like, come on. You just had it happen before. So those little details are the cues to people on the bench and in the stands to go, man, they're not ready. And this means playing the little details. The little details of this game are they make the difference. If you ice the puck, that faceoff now takes place in an area where you're not ready. And it's funny, that Marchand goal came off of a Florida Panther icing. That line wants to change. They want to get off the ice. And so for the Edmonton Oilers, we gotta get them. We gotta hem them into the offensive zone. We gotta pound them. We gotta win this faceoff. That's got to be your mindset. And they let them off the hook, not just for getting a change. They give up a goal. And off that opening faceoff, Edmonton's got to have a plan. They've got to do better at getting offensive zone time. So for me, the cue is going to be Edmonton wins the opening faceoff over the red line, and they pound it and they go get it. And they don't just retrieve the puck. They're physical. They're hard on the Florida Panthers defense, and they get a shot on goal. They don't need to score. That they would like to, but they don't need to. They need to, off the opening faceoff, get a successful forecheck to create a turnover and get a shot on net. And in that first 10 to 12 seconds, Florida's been on their heels for the only 12 seconds, and they go, okay, we're in a game. And I think Edmonton needs to say that. And I know it's only 12 seconds, and I know it's not that important in the whole scheme of the game, but that's how important that start is for Edmonton. They have to come away with the first 10 minutes even or better. They have to. If they find themselves down 10 minutes into this one, they're going to be in trouble trying to find their way back in.
Too much chasing. Part of the reason why I feel like Florida is such a good playoff team is part of the reason why I think this series is going to still go 7 games. And it's because I feel like the Panthers are so sadistic that winning in 7 on the road would feed them more than winning 6 at home. And I don't think that they're like consciously thinking this way, but I do think there's an element, and it goes back to the Paul Maurice thing about, beat him in 7 when you're in the middle of game 5. Like,
and you're playing the fucking Bruins respectfully.
And how they play is like they derive so much fucking pleasure from being miserable to play against, whether it's physically, whether it's forcing you out of the dirty areas of the ice in front of the net, whether it's, laying it on offensively. Any way that they can make you absolutely miserable, they get off from that. And a little extra gas for Edmonton, and then going home, having a game 7 on home ice, and Florida being such a good road team, I can't get that out of my mind. I just feel like the sadistic element of the Florida Panthers is lends to winning in 7 here.
I agree, and it's funny you bring up those stats on the home games and road games. Florida's been bad; they're 2-3 in their last 5. Edmonton is 7-2 in their last road games. It's with Florida. Florida reminds me of those New England Patriot teams that you can be behind by 30 at the half, and we're the New England Patriots. We're going to win the game. Like, we know we're going to win because we're New England. Florida has that swagger, they have that confidence, and they have that belief in their room that it doesn't matter. We're Florida. And in hockey, you don't see that as often because of the parity and teams, ebbs and flows and the free agency and the cap and guys move around. So I don't think you get those. Those windows are very fleeting when you go, we are this team. We are this team. And the Florida Panthers are that team. And it's been a long time. I think like Tampa was a good team, but Tampa wasn't this. Tampa wasn't what these guys are. I think Colorado probably could have been that. They just were unfortunate in the timing of COVID and all of those things. But Florida is that. Everybody in that locker room believes when they hit the ice, we are the Florida Panthers and we are going to win. We're going to play this way. We're going to play that way for 60 minutes and we will beat you. And I don't know how you overcome that. That's hard to do. And even when they make mistakes, and they do, they're over aggressive on pucks through the neutral, and they give up chances off of the rush, and they sit in the penalty box at times because they're walking the fine line. They have Bobrovsky, and Bobrovsky might give up 3, but you'll win. He might give up 5 and you win 6-5. The difference with Bobrovsky, he makes those saves that he absolutely needs to make at the most critical times of the game. And again, I said it yesterday, the first 5 minutes of the game, Edmonton could have a 1-0 lead, but they don't. We have Bobrovsky holds onto the post physically, the ball cuts across, and you go, oh my, that was impressive. That's the difference. The swagger, the confidence, and a goalie that can win a game by himself. I think Florida wins the cup now. I had Edmonton early in this series. I don't know how Edmonton can beat that team twice.
All right, you heard it from Steve Peters. Oilers in 7, he says. You can check him out on Inside the Coach's Room YouTube. It's a growing YouTube page, and it's very, very good, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on, guys. Hopefully we see you before Game 7.
Yes, we will talk before Game 7, although Petey seems to have his mind made up for Edmonton, but it's just one man's opinion. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, bud.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Au revoir. All right. Petey with Oilers in 7. Okay. Mika Zibanejad in the news. And
so I'm just laughing.
Just talking about like real high quality, high stakes hockey and then being. And next, Mika Zibanejad is hilarious to me.
And the best part about it is it's not even real reporting or anything. There's just was Arthur Staple brought up like lightly that the Leafs could maybe call on Mika Zibanejad or something. And that's all we need.
I'm choosing to believe it.
Please send Mika Zibanejad to the Maple Leafs.
Please. The Mika Zibanejad downfall has been fascinating to watch and very sad at points. You know what removes sad from the equation entirely? Bad things happening to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sign me up, buddy.
Do you think they would even make those jerseys? Because I would want one for the vibes, but I think that would have to be customized. I think they would not want to sell those because they would think that people were making fun of them.
I think that all Toronto Maple Leafs jerseys are made to be made fun of.
That is true. Frank Saravalli mentions Tampa for JJ Peterka. That's an interesting one. I could see Peterka being.
I know.
Howard.
Yeah, that's exactly. As soon as you said that, was my first thought.
I mean, perfect situation for a disgruntled young player.
I mean, the only thing I'll say.
If you want to punish a guy, you send him to Buffalo.
I mean, if he's not going to sign with Tampa, though, you just elect not to sign with Buffalo.
Yeah, I guess that is true, and that's famously has never happened to the Buffalo Sabres before, where they've traded for a pennant or an RFA who said, "I'm not going to sign with you. No, thank you."
Who was friends with your captain, and he was still like, "I'm not doing this."
Yeah, and I also think it kind of goes counter to what you and what I think a lot of Buffalo Sabres fans want is you want ready guys and not to get younger and more green. So, yeah, I mean, Peterka, honestly, like, he's a guy who just makes sense for anywhere. So when you say...
Makes most sense for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere, though. Like, any team could want and need a guy like JJ Peterka. So the Tampa element of it, yeah, I'm sure Tampa does want to bolster the wings. I'm sure that they wish that they could keep Ike Howard, but now that that relationship is ending, they have to look at other options. So Peterka would make sense to me.
Okay, Frank Saravalli also says the Blackhawks are looking to trade the number 3 pick in this draft for a difference maker. Is that JJ Peterka? Is that a Bo Byram trade involving like 9 or something? I think that you'd have to make things match up a little more there value-wise, but do you think Chicago gives a call on either of these two? Again, unhappy players in Buffalo, because it feels like a kind of lateral move going from the Sabres to the Blackhawks. Unless you are Peterka, in which case you're like, oh, I'm going to be running with Connor Bedard. I'm into this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that running with Connor Bedard currently is better than running with Tage Thompson.
Yes, that's a downgrade right now.
I mean, we've talked about the Bo Byram thing. I don't think that works, considering what we know he wants and knowing that they have Levchinov and why am I blanking on their other yet? Korchinski, right?
Korchinski,
Vlasic is solid.
And again,
but there's a path
Sabres should not be trading
Chicago.
for draft picks.
There's way more of a path in Chicago than there would be.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, I think it's similar in the sense that like even if he ends up being better than Levchinov, like he might be better than Owen Power right now, but they have so much invested in Owen Power.
You know who'd be a great target with that 3rd pick? Noah Dobson.
Yeah, and I do think that they're going to need more like pillars on the blue line. That's got to be the
trade 3 for trade.
That's got to be the first order of business for the Blackhawks. So you talk about wingers or whatever you want, and they tried to do that last year. What you need are adults on the blue line, and that's not the
right
Alec
adults.
Martinez type of adults on the blue line. You need guys who can still play the position to really improve defensively. If they don't improve defensively, they're not gonna get better. They're just not. They're just gonna remain at the bottom of the league, and it's gonna be so depressing. It's gonna be so frustrating. They need to improve the blue line. A guy like Noah Dobson, where you could, would you consider buying low on Noah Dobson right now? Because he had a very bad year.
Yeah, but I think that I would trade the 3rd overall pick straight up for Noah Dobson. And I think that the Islanders, and maybe you need to get something back. Maybe you get get a 3rd round pick or something back from them. But man, like now you're kind of cooking.
Then they can get their guy.
Because exactly, and that's the best part about it for the Islanders. They get to they're cursed with having to draft Matthew Schaefer 1st overall, and now they get to do what they really want to do, which is just take James Higgins, and then you get Schaefer and Higgins out of this draft, and there's your future. Although I think that if you do that, then you do seem pretty committed to like being in a rebuild. So then, what are you doing with Barzal and other, like you did just sign a couple of your aging guys, did they not? They re-upped Paul Mary.
They didn't sign them though.
True.
That's the thing. Like this is a new regime.
Did they sign? It was Paul. Was that like an on the way out thing
For who?
For Who's the guy that doesn't let anyone do podcasts? Old.
Lou Lamoriello?
Lou Lamoriello. Yeah.
I mean,
Is
like,
that the
everything
Lou
has
on
been under Lou.
But I'm saying, like, they signed Palmieri like a month ago. So I can't remember what the timing of that was.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Like they just did that. And they signed somebody else. I forget who. But they did like two things right around the time of the lottery.
Boquist was the other one.
Yes.
They signed them both on May 30th.
And I think that May 30th. So that was after the lottery.
Palmieri is still is only a 2-year deal, so it's not like lingering. It's a big deal, but
they also just need guys on their roster.
Right, exactly.
So you could kind of go Chicago Blackhawks mode while having Kyle Palmieri on that team. But
4.75 for 2 years is not going to prevent you from doing anything. If anything, you just want some adults in the room as you're pushing forward on this rebuild.
yeah, I'm into this Noah Dobson to the Blackhawks thing. You got 4 defensemen who I think are good NHL defensemen. Korchinski is going to become one. We don't know if he is yet. Levshinov is going to become one. We don't know if he is yet, but I think we're confident that Levshinov is going to be a top 4 defenseman. Alex Vlasic already is.
Mm-hmm.
Noah Dobson on the right side. You're working on something there. Gone are the days of like Connor Murphy got to do everything.
Those are bad days.
Those are recent days.
Those are very recent. And
those
very
are the
bad
most
days.
recent days the Chicago Blackhawks have played hockey. So I like the Islanders as a trade partner there. Make it happen, boys.
Another defenseman that has been shopped around is our pal Jordan Spence.
Yes.
Apparently on the market. Kings are looking for a Spence trade because they don't think that they have room for both him and Brant Clark, and they want to keep Brant Clark, according to Elliot Friedman.
They clearly don't like Jordan Spence. We love Jordan Spence. The Kings do not like Jordan Spence. And if you need any proof, watch the most recent games they played, where they would do anything before they would trust their quote-unquote depth players. And Jordan Spence, I think, depending on where he goes, is definitely an every-night player, but not like an every-night player who gets 3 minutes, like an every-night player who gets 15 minutes or something like that. So at this point, given how they used him, I think that, get rid of him. Like,
right,
free our boy. And little birdie whispered in our ears that Ken Holland, LA, they are looking for a right defenseman, and they could be moving Jordan Spence out. So do the math. We're Cody Ceci, guys.
You want a third pairing right D that you can trust and allocate minutes to on a given night. What better fit than a Cody Ceci?
The Kings absolutely could have used Cody Ceci in the first round against the Oilers. Very, very much so.
Cody Ceci to the Kings and then facing the Edmonton Oilers again would be very funny.
And very possible.
Very
I
possible.
would say.
Yeah.
Kings have a good regular season next year if they have Cody Ceci. But I think the Kings also have a good regular season if they stick with Jordan Spence and continue to play him. But free our guy Spence. Either play him or free him or send him to Utah. Whatever.
Buffalo.
What's that?
I said or Buffalo.
Ooh, Jordan Spence on the... It's like they could use a Jordan Spence.
Every right shot D that gets even slightly suggested that they're not going to be on the same team next year is a Buffalo Sabre.
Okay,
there is
Dobson and Jordan Spence.
There's a
to
robust right shot D market.
Oh, yeah. I was saying that going into the season. Like, the whole year is going to be Western Conference teams jumping over each other trying to get right shot D. And this whole thing hasn't really totally been solved. I mean, like, Edmonton has found John Klingberg as a solution, who I actually don't even know if he's a right shot, but he plays a lot of the right side.
Do you know if he's a solution? I mean, he's been good for a
he
large
was like
portion.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he proved to be a solution there, but how many of these teams, whether it was Dallas or whomever, that were going to be in the hunt for these things right now are like, problem solved. A lot of them are going to be taking more bites at the apple.
I feel like right shot Ds like are kind of Flex Seal right now, where
Just get a right
teams
shot D.
teams are getting a right shot D and slapping it on a hole in the boat.
I mean,
Like that might
But it's always
that
got to be
might
Cody
get
Ceci.
you like halfway across the lake,
Yeah.
like further than just moving forward with the hole in your boat. But eventually that hole is going to be reopened up and you are going to sink.
and it's very much the energy of Buffalo Sabres, where it's just like literally any right-handed D whose name gets brought up. They're like, that'll do. Like Joe Marino tweeted yesterday, Sabres right-hand D watch. Who would you want the most? And then listed 7 names via trade and 5 via UFA. And it's just like any one of them will do. Just literally a warm body
Get
to play on the
one.
right side of the defense. Yeah.
John Klingberg is a right shot D. So maybe John Klingberg.
Michael Kesselring was a name that was in that list. Via
Michael
trade.
Kesselring shaking free. I think he's got another year, right?
No, it would be via trade. Yeah. But
Not
that'd be fun.
available, Sean.
That'd be fun.
Get your own man.
That's right.
Sean, could you give me a slate, please?
Yes, I can.
Let's take a look. See what it looks like. Ooh. Looks like we've got Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight at Amerant Bank Arena. Oilers at Panthers. 8 p.m. Eastern. You can catch it on TNT. Panthers looking to clinch their second consecutive Stanley Cup championship. They, of course, lead the series 3-2, while the Oilers are trying to get a Game 6 win and once again drag them back to Alberta, put gas in the bird, as it were, and see what shakes loose there. Tuesday, June 17th could be the final day of the NHL season, which would mean that they need to move things up and make the draft tomorrow to make things as crazy as
We got like
last
2
year.
weeks, and somebody said
2
recently
years, 2 weeks and nowhere to go even.
that is literally nowhere
Boring.
to go. Somebody said that the end of the regular season, the time between the end of the season and the draft, is going to be nuts. So just keep an eye out.
I've been ready for a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not ready for the Oilers to do anything but win a Stanley Cup, but clearly our wheels have been turning on the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And I've got a doc where I'm jotting down all these names and trying to connect them to teams and everything. Like when I am not thinking about these games, I am thinking about, where is this guy gonna go? Where's Mikhail Granlund gonna go? How am I supposed to eat? How am I supposed to go see materialists when I don't know where Cody Ceci is gonna go?
We know where Cody Ceci is going to go.
LA.
Kings, baby.
Book it. He's gonna be an appropriately sized king.
That jersey is going to slap.
Absolutely getting it.
I bet you
Armenian
are.
Heritage Night jersey.
If you can amplify the show in the waning days of the season, please, we would very much appreciate that. Subscribe, hit the like button on YouTube. It's a thumbs up button. You can also leave a comment. Say the hosts were very handsome. Mike Ryan is such a great guest. We love him so much. Of course, you can say nice things about Petey and go to his YouTube channel, Inside the Coach's Room, as well. We have our merch on sale in the description below. You can click the link, buy one of those beautiful sweatshirts that we love so much. You can also amplify on social media. We got reels churning out. You can share those. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all those good places. Anyway, you can support the show. We'd love you so much. And let's hope that, I guess we don't have to hope that tonight is not the final game of the season. Like if you're a Panthers fan,
You'll see us either way.
God bless. But
You'll watch with us.
we are in the final days here, and it has been an unbelievable season. Let's finish strong, everybody. Appreciate you appreciating us. We will see you tomorrow. Maybe there's a champ.
We all silly like the mayor.